I love statistics a lot. There are so many cool things you can do with them, so today I'll give you 10 interesting facts and tips that you probably didn't know yet about Hearthstone Battlegrounds. As always, I'll be using HSreplay's tier 7 as they provide so much information, different filters and categories. The possibilities are endless, so let's get started. First of all, what is the best possible triple to hit on tier 5? Apparently people start tripling into 5 stars from turn 5 on. These are probably heroes like Omu or people with a Elemental triple. Lightfang is the best possible unit to find early, what a surprise, until turn 8. From turn 8 on, the Gurgle is actually the best 5, so if you're playing Murlocs, finding this will up your win rate by a lot. Nomi and Mama Bear are the two other best units to find, but Nomi falls off very quickly, and a couple turns later Mama Bear follows as well. And from turn 10 on, all direction on tier 5 is simply too late, and the 4 leading units are just buffs. For number 2, I want to take a look at what the best tier 1 pairs are for Maiev. Very often people roll on turn 1 for a good hero power, but what should you roll for? Usually Maiev ends up buying and hero powering 1 stars from turn 1 to turn 5. Overall these turns, Micro Mummy has the highest play impact. Next up are of course Weavers and the 2 demons, followed up by Tidehunter and Elemental. Now these might be the best early units, but that doesn't tell us anything about the triples. Maiev players usually hit their triples between turn 5 and 8, otherwise they're just way too late. And guess what? All of these units are also the best triples to hit. Demons really got a big boost this latest patch, it seems. Remember that all these stats are not just combat win rate, but they're based on your actual final placement. The third thing we're going to look at is what heroes are able to pull off pirates the best, because we all deeply love pirates so much, right? We just need to know who can force it the best. Patches obviously has the highest affinity with pirates, gaining plus 2.13 average using this build. It's also pretty much the only build he is positive with. Next up is Lich, George and Zephyrus. While going through all the heroes, it was impressive to see that almost all of them had a negative win rate for pirates, except a few. So I'll also include Eudora, Toki and Alakir in the list because they're actually positive for the tribe. It's also noticeable that none of the top tier heroes do well with pirates, but the further I scroll down, the more bad heroes I see that actually do well with them. So perhaps the shitty heroes are just bad because they're good at pirates. For the next one, I just want you to remember the last time Bob gave you an early triple. Now, let's figure out together when he is baiting you and when not. If you look at tier 1 triples between turn 3 and 4, it turns out that half the units will actually make you win more, and the other half will make you lose more. Mummy and Weaver again at the top, but Triple Swabby is actually the third best one. I think we know what most of the bad tier 1 units are, but it's interesting to note that a Elemental triple this early is also pretty bad. But if we now take a look at tier 1 triples between turn 5 and 6, almost everything is positive. The best units didn't change, but particularly Elemental went up by a lot. Only 3 units are really bad: Scallywag, Dragon Spawn and Tidecaller. The overall play impact also increases by a lot. Basically what we can conclude is that most early triples are a bait unless it's one of the super good units, but if you can, freeze your shop and get it on turn 5 or 6 to up your odds. Number 5. Let's say you're forcing dragons. What are the worst and the best units to buy that maybe you don't expect? I'm going to look at both the early mid game, which I'm gonna define as turn 1 to turn 9, and the late game because these stats change a lot. At first I was listing all the good and bad units for every tribe, but that took me so long that instead I'll just give one or a couple units that are surprisingly good or bad that maybe you don't expect. Because everyone knows Kaligos and Adina are good with dragons, but what else? Whether I sort for the first part of the game or the late game for dragons, all the best units are always just random Battlecry units. So the best way to win is by just scaling as much as possible, it seems. What surprised me is that in the mid game a bunch of random 6 stars have super low play impact. So if you're playing dragons, missing your triple is gonna hurt a lot, or just getting tempo units is really bad. If you now look at big demons, it's basically the reverse. The highest play impact units in the mid game are Maxna, Almageddon, and a bunch of random 6-star tempo units. Goldgrubber is also really high up there. Juggler is actually one of the lowest, so don't take that guy. Late game, not much changes, but attack units like Ghoul, Toxfin and Zapscorp really high, so if you want to win with big demons, attack well against your opponents. When going beasts, Pack Leader and Hyena, Infested Wolf, Kindly Grandmother, they're all pretty trash. It's noteworthy that Anoia module has a really good play impact though. Late game, the second best unit you can possibly find for beasts is Righteous Protector. Holy shit, module is still up there. It seems like your win rate goes up by a lot if you just hit a Divine Shield taunt. Now for Menagerie. Here are the best units to find in the mid game to up your win rate. Eliza for pirates, Hydra for beasts, 4 Reaper for mechs, Imama for demons, Kalios for dragons apparently, and that's it. Most Murlocs will do, and I actually don't see a single elemental being positive. Do keep in mind that if you sort for earlier in the game, you'll get a different result, like Gold Grubber, Wildfire Elemental, and so on. Also, Brand kinda sucks compared to the almighty Lightfang. The best thing to hope for late game is definitely Almagadon. Now everything you want for elementals is pretty much tier 6, unless you get an early Nomi. Genie still being the king. Even in the very late game, Genie beats everything except for Almagadon. Besides that, there's nothing really special for elementals. For mechs, it turns out the Flactobot is good, but actually not that amazing. In early Sensei is much better, and modules are just insane. Late game, Strong Shell is the best unit to play together with modules. So the takeaway from this is to just get your mechs as big as possible and give them some shields. Pirates? They're just so bad that random units like Murozond, Spawn of N'Zoth, and even Ref Weavers have higher played win rates than most pirates. And in the late game, Eliza is in first, followed up by Cold Light and Toxfin. Yeah. And last but not least, for Murlocs, hitting an early Grubber still turns out to be pretty good. But if you want to win, you'll need Amalgadons, with Nadina taking the 3rd best spot. That was quite a lot, but I hope this will improve your next couple of games. So we just talked about some interesting units for every composition. Now for number 6, we'll talk about how you want to level when you want to play a certain composition. So for big demons, you definitely want to stay on tier 1 for 2 or 3 turns. Then you basically level normally and stay on tier 4 for a while. Dragons on the other hand can skip tier 3 or 4 and go to tier 5 quickly. They usually level to 6 faster than most compositions. Beasts pretty much have the same leveling curve as dragons, that's easy. Menagerie has the most basic leveling curve you'll ever see. Elementals don't always rush to tier 5 so quickly, but they do want to end up on tier 6 at some point, although they do stay on tier 5 longer than dragons or beasts. Mechs don't want to level much. They stay 2 turns on tier 3, they stay even longer or tier 4, and they pretty much never leave tier 5. Pirates have a super basic curve, just like Menagerie, which I didn't really expect to be honest. With Murlocs you want to level normally as well, so you hit tier 5 on turn 9, and you also stay here for most of the game. Number 7, how often do you power level to tier 4 on 8 gold, so you can finally buy that triple and get a 5-star unit? And what are the odds that you're going to regret this decision? The odds will vary depending on what tribes are missing from the lobby, but I'm just going to include all the tribes here. There's only 7 units that will have a positive impact on your game, and one of those is Begurgle, and the stats are only so good for it because people take it when they have Murlocs. And the same could be said about Razorgore and Dragons, but I'd say that generally an early Razorgore is still decent because it's something you can build around. So if you don't play Murlocs, there are only 6 tier 5 units that you can play on turn 6 that will improve your game. There's a total of 20 different tier 5 units. Luckily Bob offers you 3 different units. I'll put the math on screen, but there's a 32% chance that you miss on a good trimple. So 1 out of 3 games that you attempt this, you'll get screwed. For number 8, I want to see at what point finding a 6-star unit becomes too late. Lil Rag is actually the only tier 6 unit that is negative turn 7 and 8, but then picks back up. Turn 10, the first unit to become negative is the boat. Turn 11, Imp Mama and Coiler follow. Turn 12, the 4 Reaper joins. And turn 13, Eliza and Kangors drop down. But also Goldrin is now too late. And from this point on, nothing really changes. Now I want to take a look at what some of the most risky, hard, but also easy compositions are to play and to win with. People mainly look at average win rates, but instead let's take a look at some other stats. Murlocs have the highest 8th place percentage, followed up by Jugglers and Elementals. The lowest one goes to Big Demons, Beasts and Dragons. The highest first place percentages go to Dragons by a lot, Elementals and Murlocs. The builds that barely get first are Jugglers, Mechs and Pirates. So what's the conclusion? Murlocs and Elementals are high risk, high reward, while Dragons is rather safe but with a high reward. Mechs, Beasts and Big Demons are good if you just want the top 4. Menagerie can literally be anything, and please say no to Pirates and Jugglers. The last thing I want to look at is how often I can get angry at Bob. So what are the odds that I get offered only heroes with a negative win rate? Again, some heroes only show up for some tribes in the game, but I'll have to go with the stats for all the tribes included. As of this moment, there are 16 heroes with a positive win rate. That's if we look at the top 50% of players. There are a total of 48 different options. If you don't have a Tavern Pass, the game only shows you 2. Once again, I'll put the math on screen, but it's only a 44% that you don't get a decent hero, which is still still pretty high, but you are favored. And with 4 options, it's only 18% that you get trash offered. And keep in mind that some of the low win rate heroes still have high roll potential or are just hard to play, like Reno, Flurgle, or Lord Barov. So that's less than 1 out of 5 games that you'll have to play a crappy hero if you have the Tavern Pass. I hope most of these were just as interesting to you as they were to me. A lot of time went into research, but also into making this video, so any feedback is always very much appreciated. Also, don't forget to subscribe to catch more from me in the future. Most people that watch me are not subscribed, so it would mean a lot. Have a good day, thanks for watching, and good luck on the Battlegrounds.